Did you see the video of him and his interaction with his neighbor?
No.
So the first piece of the video came out. It shows Alan beating up his neighbor.
Allegedly assaulting his neighbor.
Allegedly, that's a key word there. And then Alan released, he had body footage camera. He was riding his motorcycle, so he had like a body cam.
Mm-hmm.
And he released the video footage prior to the actual moment when he's like whomping on his neighbor, and the neighbor started attacking him first. So many people are debating whether or not his body cam footage is AI or not. It's sad that we're at a stage in life where we cannot trust video footage released by the author. We've just been indoctrinated to question everything and say, is this AI? This looks fuzzy. This looks weird. Man, we need data of the world and mapping of the world. How the heck are we going to do that? Well, we can have people who live there do it. Well, how would we incentivize them? We can't pay them. Well, what if we got them on a video game that everyone loves? Just kind of spiraled from there. It does kind of make me worried. I caught some Pokemon in my house. I don't know if I want my house in their database. If you are involved in any kind of AI or model training, you understand how important data is, because you need a good amount of data in order to have a strong model for training AI. And the more good data you can feed it, the better the model will be.
Welcome to the BedTech Show. We are so happy to have you all here with us. We're your hosts, Ben and Ethan, and we're going to be a little unhinged today, and we're not quite clear what we're going to talk about. We've got a lot of stuff on our minds, and we're just going to hit it out there.
We got some news. We got news on the gaming world. Got some more conspiracy theories, because we love conspiracy theories. Get that tinfoil hat, ladies and gentlemen.
And you all like that. So based off our last video. So we're going to keep up the conspiracy theories.
I love conspiracy theories. I had a conspiracy theory night with friends in our neighborhood, and my wife and I, we won conspiracy theory night. It was pretty sweet. Yeah. So let's dive in, dude. Let's first talk about what we were just talking about before we started the pod, which is let's talk about Xbox joining with Netflix. And then in conjunction with that, why Sony isn't going to be taking games, or why they haven't been taking games to PC. So first, Xbox to Netflix. What do we know about this deal? What does this look like? What did you hear?
From what I've heard, and this is very, very minimal, what I've heard, Xbox is joining Netflix to have their cloud gaming be a part of the next Netflix ecosystem, part of streaming, in such a way that they will have different tiers of their gaming experience. You can have a paid subscription version in which you own nothing and are still happy, allegedly. Or you can have a free version with ads where you still own nothing and are happy because you own nothing, and you get a little ads sprinkled in with your games. So it would be as if you are playing Tomb Raider and Lara Croft is walking through the forest, taking a nice stroll, and then all of a sudden you see an advertisement for a Whopper from Burger King. And I don't even know how it's going to work, how they will do that in games, because what if you're playing a multiplayer game? It's not like you can just pause mid gunfight and have another ad come up. So I don't know how that's going to do. Unless everybody has to pause during the gunfight. Say, hold on, I got this ad.
You're in like a battle royale and all of a sudden everyone just pauses because we're all just watching the same ad.
There might be, I think of it might be like the Hunger Games, where everybody's just off in their own thing, and then all of a sudden a big ad comes in the sky that we all have to watch, as if like propaganda from Pan Am.
Yeah, honestly, that's probably the case. I bet it's like, have you ever seen like live streamers, and like when someone donates to a live streamer, something like pops up on the screen, even though they're still doing their live. I bet that's probably what it's like. You'll be in game, and mid game there'll be like just a little ad in the corner or whatever. Maybe not
Yeah.
though. Maybe it's like a full blown pause because I feel like if they're gonna do ads, they probably just don't want it in the corner. They probably want your full screen dedicated to the ad. You know?
That reminds me of Ready Player One, where they say we can sell up to 75 or 70% of the screen before people start having seizures. And so
Yes,
maybe
dude.
that's what it's going to be.
Dude, that's like literally, I did think about that. I wanted to say that before we started the podcast, that it reminded me so much of Ready Player One because it's so true. They're trying to just maximize revenue from ads. And gosh, it's so stupid. It honestly is infuriating. So, anyway, kind of going back to this, rounding this out, Xbox, they're going to have tiered versions of your Netflix with ads. And a lot of people are like, I'm just going to go to Steam and just buy games off Steam so that like I don't have to deal with ads and Game Pass. And that leads to a conspiracy theory that we might have, which is why PlayStation isn't selling games on PC. And it's not because of their competition with Xbox, but it's with Steam. Any thoughts there, Ethan? You care to expand? Tell me
Yeah.
about this a little bit more, dude, because I wanna get your insight here.
From what I understand, Bluepoint Tech Boss suggested that Sony is scared of Valve, and that's the reason why they are pulling away from having single player releases on PC. For the last year or so, Sony has been releasing a lot of its Sony games on Steam, albeit, there's been a little bit of a delay before Steam is able to get those. But we've been able to get Sony games. And it's been nice. I've been able to actually play a few of the games on my PC without having to get a PlayStation. Been able to play Marvel Spider-Man. Wonderful game.
Nice.
Nice that it's
Slinging.
nice that it's not gate kept by Sony here and that it's on Steam. However, because Sony is really into their consoles and they think that's the way of the future here.
Way of the future.
By having their games on Steam, there's really no incentive to buy a PlayStation because Steam is also entering into the console market where they are going to have a entertainment system in the living room, which is Sony's primary forum of where they want to have their content. So with this, even though Valve hasn't released their hardware yet for the Steam machine, I think it's almost safe to say that they may have won the console war already without releasing a console. Valve just seems to be crushing it as of late. I mean, rather than doing what Sony is doing with their dynamic pricing on their games. I don't know if you've heard about that.
No, I hate dynamic pricing. That's becoming such a big thing nowadays among companies. They're doing dynamic pricing,
Yeah.
which just means, hey, we can change the price whenever we want. I freaking hate it, dude. Honestly, it's so
And
stupid. I didn't know
Sony
Sony
has
was doing it.
taken it to the HNL, whole another level, and where for people that regularly buy their games, loyal fans, they will be increasing the prices for their loyal fans. And for those that do not often buy games, they will lower the price to incentivize you to buy a game. So it is
Wow.
truly a disloyalty program that they have.
That is ridiculous, dude. That's so
And
crazy.
and where Steam, they've got their spring sale on now. Everything is got ridiculous discounts and it's wonderful. And they hope people just buy games and never play them, which is generally what people do on Steam anyway, because you just want to have as many games as you can, but never have enough time to play them.
How does Steam, this is like a genuine question that I was thinking about this the other day, because PlayStation, Xbox, they want to make their margins on their games, right? And I feel like what I've heard in the past is that consoles are kind of loss leaders, the actual hardware themselves for the consoles. And the consoles don't have really good margins. They price them or at least they used to price them at a point where it was pretty slim margins, and then Xbox and PlayStation would make up their profits on the games. How does Steam get away with heavy discounting? Is it because they don't have to worry about a loss leader like their hardware, and so they can just price, and everything's digital, so they can price it whatever they want, so it's not a significant cost to them? I'm trying to think, like,
Yeah.
how do
So
they do that?
right now, everything that is on their platform, if, in order to list on Steam, developers agree to a 30% cut of the sell price going to Valve. Steam takes 30% of whatever you pay. And so I think that's the reason that they can do these sales is because they have such a high margin on them anyway. And so they can offer a little bit of a discount on that margin and still get people to buy it.
I also can't imagine there's a lot of expense in pushing a digital version of a game to, like, an end user on a computer, right?
Mhm.
And so there's probably not a lot of cost there's not a lot of incremental cost or like unit-based cost for selling a digital game on Steam for the game producer and for Valve, because Valve probably has, like, their server fees, their hosting fees, everything's digital, and it's probably all pretty consistent and maybe not fully fixed costs, but close to it. And so they could be really aggressive if they need to.
Mhm.
I assume that's got to be it. Whereas Xbox and Sony, Microsoft and Sony, they probably have a lot more variable costs because they have a lot more hardware, they have a lot more products, they have a mixture of digital and hard copy games. So, I also wonder too if, like, Steam gets a lot of value or a lot of margins out of the other things they sell that aren't just games. Like, I think I bought what was it? Wallpaper Engine
Mhm.
on my computer from Steam. Like, that is a very, I would assume, simple software. The interface is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think with that, I mean, really, I think to with Valve and doing that, they've got the file for the game on their servers. You download it onto yours, so it's local on your machine, and that's really about it. Maybe they'll push an update, but there's not much traffic other than that initial download from what it is, because you're not necessarily streaming anything from there, so there's not constant traffic. It's more of a front load the traffic and then it's done.
Yeah, yeah, that makes it a lot simpler. Man, that's crazy. They can just be so much more aggressive because of it.
And really, with Steam, it's not like anybody owns anything anyway, since it's a digital game. You're just owning the license, which doesn't get you anything.
Yeah, I still don't like that either. We're just paying to use everything on a monthly basis.
Hmm.
That's how it is for everything these days. It's convenient because you have it on demand at any time, assuming you have service, unless you've downloaded it in an on-prem situation. But it's also annoying because you're right, like, we don't own it, and it's consistent payment that's required to continually access it.
Yeah,
But it makes profits better for companies.
I know.
Speaking of profits, sorry, unless you had something else, I was gonna switch topics
No,
here.
let's switch. Let's go for it.
Speaking of profits, let's kind of dive into, like, AI companies a little bit and talk about some of their motives and what we're seeing in the market and what they're doing and what that looks like. AI deepfakes are a thing, and they're pretty fun for the most part. Sometimes they can be used for harm or misinformation, and there is pretty slow response from AI companies, especially around implementing regulation and implementing any kind of safeguards. Do you think this is on purpose, or do you think it's just that complex?
Well, that is a good question.
They're like slow rolling, slow walking any kind of regulation around like deep fakes and misinformation, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Granted, go ahead, sorry.
I don't think that it's a lack of that it's not possible to create regulations or laws
Mhm.
regarding this. I
Yeah.
think it might be purposeful because there's really been nothing to put any safeguards at this time. And it's not like deep fakes aren't a brand new concept. They've been around for they've been around for a long time and now they're starting to gain a little bit more traction because it's easier for these AI models to produce them and generate them. And I mean, it I know it with government it does take a while to get some regulations, but I don't think it takes this long. And if somebody was really motivated, we could we could get something. I just don't think anyone is motivated enough to stop it because maybe it hasn't caused enough harm. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts?
I agree with you. And yes, there's like a lot of red tape in government regulation, but to you don't need the government to set up safeguards around harmful things in your company. Like you don't need to wait for the government to pass a law that requires it, right?
Right.
And so if some of these AI companies, given how fast they're innovating on the AI, like they could probably execute on safeguards quicker if they really wanted to. I think a lot of people use these AI tools to generate deepfakes. They use them and they pay money to use them to generate deepfakes. And I'm sure all the large AI tech companies have done analyses on what their product is being used for, right? Like categorization. Is it used for image generation, for video generation? If so, what type of images and video generation? If it's used for conversation, what are those conversations made up of? I mean, these are multi-billion dollar companies. They're not going to be just dilly-dallying and having zero understanding of what the users are doing with their product. They are definitely learning because that's how they innovate. That's how they iterate on their version and they make a
Hmm.
better version next time, which happens a lot. I mean, they're all constantly publishing updates, right?
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, they're getting their information on what to prioritize and what to publish somewhere. And if not always, if not always, the user information, user data. And so in my mind, I'm like, they're slow rolling safeguards out on purpose because they don't want to restrict the profits that they're getting from people spending money using their software to create deep fakes. But nowadays you are scrolling your social media and you're like, was that AI or was that real?
Yeah.
Did you see the video with isn't it the actor Alan Richardson? He's the guy that plays Reacher in this Alan
On
Richson.
Richson. Yeah.
Yeah, Alan Richson. Did you see the video of him and his interaction with his neighbor?
No.
So the first piece of the video came out. It shows Alan beating up his neighbor.
Allegedly
Um,
assaulting his neighbor.
allegedly, that's a key word there. And then Alan released he had body footage camera. He was riding his motorcycle, so he had like a body cam.
Hmm.
And he released the video footage prior to the actual moment when he's like womping on his neighbor. And the neighbor started attacking him first, actually. But my point is, so many people are debating whether or not his body cam footage is AI or not.
Wow.
And it's like, how it's sad that we're
Yeah.
at a stage in life where we cannot trust video footage released by the author because we've just been indoctrinated to question everything and say, is this AI? This looks fuzzy. This looks hazy. This looks weird, whatever it might be.
Yeah. And I find it really frustrating is that You go to YouTube to learn something and you can't tell if it's true or false, or
Mm.
it's really hard. I shouldn't have to perform those mental gymnastics just to try and learn something true.
Yeah.
And so I find it really frustrating and annoying that, half of the news that I get may or may not be true and or may be false.
Yeah. I'm all for free speech, but I also think there is a problem with deception
Mhm.
and misinformation. And I think, like you were saying, it's frustrating because people are deliberately lying through their social media content in order to just get clout and money, to get views and clicks, to get paid. And for the consumer, that's really frustrating. It's exactly your point. Like, I don't I don't want to have to question everything. I want to know what the answer is, right? And I think AI companies can I think there is a solution there. I just don't think they want to solution it because it would restrict their profits. That's my
Yeah,
opinion. It's my tinfoil hat thought.
I agree with it. They don't have any incentive to be ethical.
Yeah.
And so with it, they're just in it for the money. They're in it for the data. And so with this, they can get as much data. And the more of these deep fakes that come out or false things, that's just more data to them that they
Mhm.
can use to train their model. It's kind of like what Pokemon Go has been doing for
Yeah.
the last 10 years. Pokemon Go, when it came out in 2016, was a huge success. If you were anybody, you had Pokemon Go and you were out searching for all these Pokemon. In the background, the real reason that they did this was to gather street view information and data points from various places in the world. It's kind of like a Google Street View, but now you've got millions of users doing work for you for free to get all this data. Now they're using this data to train robots for deliveries. So it's going to be used for neural networks for robots so that they can go out and make deliveries. And who knows what else this data can be used for. It could be used for anything.
Yeah. This is pretty interesting. And also, I mean, I have to give hats off to the creators because it is a pretty smart way of like, man, we need data of the world and mapping of the world. How the heck are we going to do that? Well, we can have people who live there do it. Well, how would we incentivize them? We can't pay them. Well, what if we got them on a video game that everyone loves? It just kind of spiraled from there. But
Uh-huh.
it does kind of make me worried. Like, I caught some Pokemon in my house. Like, I don't know if I want my house in their database, but it is, you
Yeah.
know. So I think people don't realize how valuable data is, and the more data you give, the more profitable that company can be with your data. And maybe there's something to be said of like passing revenue off to the consumer, but I don't think that'll ever happen. I don't think you'll ever get paid for your data, like through your usage data, you know?
Or, yeah. It would be nice to, especially if Tesla gave us compensation for the usage data,
Dude,
since
that'd be
every time we
amazing.
drive, it's data for them.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Did I tell you about the startup I was at and how they were valued over $1 billion because Microsoft wanted their data?
Yeah, you were telling me about that. For our viewers, maybe you should go into that story a little bit.
Yeah, the first time I realized how valuable data was, and this is before like AI, right? But now even more so if you are involved in any kind of AI or model training, you understand how important data is because you need a good amount of data in order to have a strong model for training AI. And the more good data you can feed it, the better the model will be. So I worked for a software company that collected data on sales calls and conversations and like email responses, email opens, all this data. We're talking like billions of data points. that we had collected. And the company was valued for over $1 billion. It was technically a startup, and Microsoft wanted to buy it for close to $1 billion. They were under, but it was like 900 and something and change. And the CEO said, "No, I don't want to sell for under $1 billion." And they ended up not selling. And then over the next 3-4 years, they just kept losing clients, and essentially it became a fire sale, and they sold for like pennies on the dollar. It was terrible. But the thing that blew me away was how Microsoft was willing to pay so much for this company, because I knew the product. I was working with the product with our clients, and I'm like, the product's nothing amazing. It's anyone can build the product. It's the data that was behind the product. We had like behavioral prediction features, and we had, email cadence models based around, behavior that was backed by the data. And that was the stuff that was so interesting. And this is maybe 5 years ago, if not more. They're willing to pay. This is actually closer to like 8 years ago. Willing to pay close to $1 billion for this data because it's just so valuable. And if you look at all these tech companies and data companies, they collect so much data. And there's not really anything we can do about it.
Yeah. And I mean, I would say like Google and Facebook probably know so much about us just from usage of our phones and whatnot and usage on the internet. They probably know me better than I know myself at this point.
Yeah.
And so,
Same.
yeah, the fact that they're doing all of this with our data and how much the value in it is mind-boggling. It's hard to fathom how much it's worth.
Yeah, true. I'm curious if there's a larger play for Pokemon Go and the creators behind it besides just like mapping streets for the robots and stuff. You know,
I'm sure that there will be I'm sure there will be people that will be bidding for that data. Because, I mean, it can help you get insight into urban and rural areas that nobody's ever been to and we've never mapped before. So now with those users, we've got some information on that.
yeah, definitely. Definitely. I wanted to talk about another thing in regards to like companies and their motives. I feel like in the past, when a company would have layoffs, that was a really bad sign for the company. And the reputation of the brand went down. The company was struggling. And this is maybe 2 decades ago that I have this opinion. Now, especially in the last 5 years, we have seen companies do layoffs, multiple rounds of layoffs, even though they're still cash flowing really well, still very profitable. Why? And one of the main reasons is we're AI focused, so we don't need as many personnel. But I think you and I have enough experience, limited if it may be, but enough to be fair judges that AI can't do everything that your employees that you've let go can do. You just let go 30,000 people or 10,000 people or 16,000 people. You're telling me AI can do 16,000 jobs for 16,000 people? Like, come on, that's not
That math
reasonable.
doesn't add up.
Doesn't add up. So what's the motive? Because it's becoming more and more common without any strong repercussions, right?
Yeah.
What do you think the motives are here? Do you think they're just trying to if they have a bad quarter or maybe second half of the year, they're just trying to blame the amount of employees they have that they overhired, so they laid them off? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
That's a really interesting case. I haven't really thought about it. As I'm thinking about it, it may be kind of in the world of data to see what capabilities AI can do in that situation. And then if they realize, hey, it's not capable of handling the tasks of these 30,000 employees, maybe we'll hire some back. And there's with all the layoffs that keep going on, there's obviously no shortage of people needing work at this point, which is unfortunate. It's kind of an apocalypse out there right now in terms of job market, which is very different from what we saw just a couple of years ago, where people were or companies were begging for people to come. And so, yeah, now with that may be the case. Maybe it's just them gathering data on how it can handle these situations, and we'll see if it works. And the worst thing that can happen is they just need to hire more people and they get a break on payroll expenses. What are your thoughts?
I think I'm trying to look it up right now. I have my thoughts and I'll express in just a sec. I'm just trying to Google it and see if there's any other insight. So my thought initially with my just like this is coming from like my accounting background, right? With financial statements, you want to try and make them up and to the right. Consistent, regular growth over time. Any sporadic peaks or valleys doesn't look good to your investors. And so sometimes what happens is companies will have those peaks and valleys, and then they'll find a scapegoat for those things. And I think often companies will lay off a massive amount of people and use that as a scapegoat as to why they had a poor Q3 or poor Q4. And they say, oh, we overhired, we had a lot of expenses on our overhead, and we solved the problem by firing all these people. But the reason why we have this massive dip is because of the overhiring of people, which, like I said, there are use cases or examples of tech companies laying off thousands of people, even though they're cash flowing really well, even though the profits are still really good. They just may not have hit their targets that they wanted, or they're showing a little bit of a dip compared to what it was the last quarter, the last year, whatever it might be, right? I do think companies are focusing on AI more. I personally work with 2 or 3 companies that are just like AI focused 100% and they're not hiring anymore, but they're not letting go of thousands of people because of
Mhm.
AI, right? I just think that's a facade, and I don't think that's truly the reason behind it. I think it's an easy reason to say because there's a lot of hype around it.
Right.
Again, I just don't think AI can replace 16,000 people.
I don't
I
think
don't
it
think that's
can
I don't think it's
yet
feasible.
either.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be able to replace certain aspects of the jobs that they can all do, but I don't think it can fully replace what an individual does yet.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's some agents that can run 24/7, but there's risk involved with that, and you have to have management oversight from an actual human if
Mhm.
you want it to be effective. And then an agent, they're not cheap. Like
No.
if you're having an agent do multiple tasks in Claude, like the tokens are expensive. I just
Right.
read a post from a guy saying he fired his sales team and he was having AI do his like outbound cold call or cold emailing sales. And he's like, dude, it cost me more money than the salaries of the guys that I had on, and it's not even close to as good.
Wow.
And so to me, I'm like, people just are on the AI hype train, and so they're using it as an excuse. But in reality, it's not. It's not the same.
Yeah. I'm kind of over the AI hype train at this point. Still waiting for it to do what it says it's going to do. Until then, no, it's kind of over it at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah. I think a lot of people are starting to see that it's not as it's not as robust as maybe the hype plays it up to be.
Yeah. It was really hyped up to be extremely revolutionary. I think it's good. There's some really great things that have come of it, but it's not a whole nother level yet.
And maybe I'm just not using it right. And that might be the case. If you're listening right now and you feel like, oh, you guys just aren't using it right, this has changed my life completely. Please let us know. Like, tell us in the comments. The caveat is, I see on social media people saying like, "Oh, I'm using Claude Code every day and it's changed my life." And then I like look into the use case, and they're spending hundreds of dollars on tokens to execute like a research process that I could have done. Might have taken me a little bit longer, but like it wouldn't have cost me money, you know?
Right.
And so I think if you really want to get complex in the abilities of AI, it's going to cost you money.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess people are willing to drain oceans just to keep these data centers alive.
Drain oceans, baby.
Yep.
Use all that water.
Got to water cool our components.
I love that argument when people say like, what was it? I can't remember the statistic. It was something like the lines of AI used more water than Americans drank water bottles. It's like, first of all, that's not a lot of water in like relative to everything. Second of
Right.
all, like, what an obscure statistic to use to try and fearmonger your way into AI.
Yeah.
Is AI using a lot of water for their server cooling? Yeah, probably. But like, in all reality, is it like significant? Probably not. I'm open to debate people on that. So if I'm wrong, happy to discuss. But
Probably more water than we're going to have in Utah for the coming summer.
gosh, dude, I was looking at levels of snowpack, and too many counties have 0% in their water snowpack. And I'm like, what are we going to do? I don't know what to do. And I
Yeah.
think we're just not going to water stuff. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know either. Like I mowed my grass today and and I was surprised at how long it was, for the first mow, but I don't know how long I'm going to be able to keep it without watering.
Yeah,
So
I
at
just,
some point I'm going to have to turn on my sprinklers because it's just so blooming warm
it's
for
crazy.
March.
March in the 80s is
Yeah. Good news is when my daughter starts soccer, I won't be freezing while she's playing. So
fair point. Fair
that's
point.
the upside. She'll be able to play soccer in normal weather, or good weather, I should say.
Yeah, I guess there's pros. That's good.
But yeah, well, make sure you all hit that thumbs up. That really does help out our channel if you like this video. If you didn't, that other button seems to work all right as well. Make sure you send this to somebody you dislike. Make sure you ring-a-ling that ding-a-ling button so you never miss out on any content as it's posted on the channel. Until next time, stay classy and have a great evening.
Peace.